Hello, it's Mrs. Engel. Because I teach periods 1, 3, and 8, I am making some videos just in case you need to get started before I actually come into class, periods 2, 6, and 9. Welcome to the Pearl by John Steinbeck, Day 3. Superstition or belief? You'll notice on the slide here, it says superstition or belief, you decide. As you read today, decide how important, or you can notice how important nature is to Kino and his people. Do you believe they are superstitious, or do they actually have a belief in a higher power? You're going to write your answer in the speaker notes below. For fun, there's an added bonus. I've included 2 videos about the power of the spoken word. So those are for fun. What I want you to do today is I want you to actually put your definition of superstition in here. And again, remember, whenever we do something, we can always open up a Google tab. We can also say define superstition. And then I like to actually use, let's see, can I move this out of the way? I actually like to use these ones over here. I think they give us the best definition. So it's a belief. Well, maybe it might be a misunderstanding, but I like this one. A belief in fate or magic. So that might be something that I put in there. And then again, I would define belief. I would do the same thing for that. The first thing I would do is I would actually then read the story or listen to it as I narrate it for you. And then down here in the speaker notes, do you think that Kino is superstitious, or does he have a strong belief? And then you're actually going to write your answer down here that's going to support your argument. And then it's a bonus. I challenge you to do the rice experiment. Are the results confirmed or busted? So if you want to know more about that and challenge yourself, that would be that second video here. I'd be interested to see if anyone would actually do the rice challenge experience or not. Also, if you're like a basketball person, or if you want to know the power of words, that's what this first video is going to talk about. But let's actually get into the reading. Again, this is not the original text. It is a modified text that I modified for people who are still learning how to read a little bit. The Pearl by John Steinbeck, Chapter 2, The Beginning. A boat means survival. They were fishing people. They had white and blue canoes that were passed down from generation to generation. There was an uncertainty that hung in the air. It seemed to make the rubble and the dead fish and the other uglier things bigger. It felt as if one's eyes could not be trusted. It seemed as if things were a dream. The people of the Gulf trusted things of dream and spirit more than they did with their own eyes. There was no proof that what they saw was either there or not there. And the people of the Gulf expected all places to be that way. This trusting one's gut instead of trusting solid things was not strange to them. Kino and Juana came slowly down to the beach and to Kino's canoe, which was one of the things of values that he owned in the world. It was very old. Kino's grandfather had given it to Kino's father, and so it had come to Kino. It was a source of food for the family. He touched his canoe gently, and he laid his diving rock and his basket and the 2 ropes into it. He folded his blanket and laid it in the bow. Looking for a pearl to pay the doctor, Juana laid Coyotito on a blanket, and she placed her shawl over him so that the hot sun would not shine on him. He was quiet now, but the swelling on his shoulder had continued up his neck and under his ear, and his face was puffed and feverish. Juana went to the water and waded in. She gathered some brown seaweed and made a flat, damp medicine patch of it, and this she applied to the baby's swollen shoulder, which seemed a good remedy as any, and probably better than the doctor could have done. But the remedy was simple, and it didn't cost anything. The stomach tramps had not come to Coyotito. Perhaps Juana had sucked the poison out in time, but she had not sucked out her worry over her firstborn. So there's pictures here of maybe like what it looked like for Coyotito, and then this is like made of seaweed, and she put that seaweed over the scorpion sting. Now Kino and Juana slid the canoe down to the beach to the water, and when the bow floated, Juana climbed in. And while Kino pushed the stern in and waited beside it until it floated lightly and trembled a little on the breaking waves. Then, in coordination, Juana and Kino drove their double-bladed paddles into the sea, and the canoe crest the water, and it hissed with speed. And other pearlers were gone long since. In a few moments, Kino could see an oyster bed. And this is a picture of what an oyster bed looks like. Light filtered down into the water, into the bed, where the frilly pearl oysters lay flattened to the rubbly bottom. And this was the bed that had raised the King of Spain to be great power in Europe in past years. It had helped pay for wars and had decorated the churches for his soul's sake. But the pearls were accidents, and finding one was luck. A little pat on the back by the god, or the gods, or both. So, for example, if you look up here, there's tons and tons of oysters, which I didn't actually know. And what they're saying is this was the same oyster bed, pictured almost like a garden, where this King of Spain found tons of pearls, and pearls were really expensive and they were worth money. So Kino's hoping that maybe there was one of these beautiful pearls left in this bed. And why would he need that pearl? To help his baby, right? He needs the money from the pearl to pay the doctor. Kino had 2 ropes, one tied to a heavy stone and one to a basket. He stripped off his shirt and trousers and lay his hat at the bottom of the canoe. The water was oily and smooth. He took his rock in one hand and his basket in the other and slipped his feet over the side, and the rock carried him to the bottom. So you need something heavy to bring you down to the bottom of the water. Sometimes you can float if you're not heavy enough. The bubbles rose behind him until the water cleared and he could see. Kino moved cautiously so that the water would not be obscured with mud or sand. He hooked his foot on the loop of his rock, and his hands worked quickly, tearing the oysters loose. Some singly and others in clusters. He laid them in his basket. As a challenge, don't be too weird about this, but picture it, Kino has to go underwater and hold his breath for a long time. How long can you hold your breath? And that's how long he has to gather as many oysters as he can before he can come to the surface. Kino's people had a song for everything, to the fish, to the light and the dark, to the sun and to the moon. So a song came to Kino as he filled his basket with oysters. It was a secret song that came from inside his heart. It was sweet. It was called the Song of What Might Be, the Song of the Pearl. And for every shell that he threw in his basket, it might contain a pearl. Chance was against it, but luck and the gods might be for it. In the canoe above him, Juana was making the magic of prayer. She needed the prayer to work for the swollen shoulder of Coyotito. And because the need was great and the desire was great, the prayer and song were even stronger this morning. Kino, in his pride and youth and strength, could remain underwater for over 2 minutes without strain. So he worked deliberately, selecting the largest shells, and then he saw a very large oyster lying by itself. The shell was partly open, and Kino saw a ghostly gleam. And then the shell closed down. His heart beat a heavy rhythm, and the melody of a maybe pearl shrilled in his ears. Slowly, he forced the oysters loose and held it tightly against his breath. He kicked his foot free from the rock loop, and his body rose to the surface, and his black hair gleamed in the sunlight. He reached over the side of the canoe, and he laid the oyster in the bottom. Juana steadied the boat while he climbed in. His eyes were shining with excitement. But in decency, he pulled up his rock, and then he pulled up his basket of oysters and lifted them in. Juana sensed his excitement, and she pretended to look away. Very deliberately, Kino opened his short, strong knife. Juana's eyes were on him, and she could not wait. She put her hand on Coyotito's covered head. "Open it," she said softly. Kino deftly slipped his knife into the edge of the shell. Through the knife, he could feel the muscle tighten hard. He worked the blade over the lever-wise, and closing muscle parted, and the shell fell apart. The lip, like flashed, writhed up and then subsided. Kino lifted the flesh, and there it lay, the great pearl, perfect as the moon. It captured the light and refined it and gave it back in silver iridescence. It was as large as a seagull egg. It was the greatest pearl in the world. Juana caught her breath and moaned a little, and Kino, secretly, the melody of the maybe pearl broke clear and beautiful, rich and warm and lovely, glowing and gloating like a trumpet. Instinctively, Juana went to Coyotito, where he lay with his father's blanket. She lifted the seaweed and looked at his shoulder. "Look!" she cried. And he looked past the pearl, and he saw that the swelling was going out of the baby's shoulder. The poison was receding, going away from the baby. Then Kino fist closed over the pearl, and his emotion broke over him. He put his head back and howled. His eyes rolled up, and he screamed, and his body was rigid. The men in their canoes looked up, startled, and then they dug their paddles into the sea toward Kino's canoe. So now remember, go back and answer. Down here, do you think Kino is superstitious? Or do you think his belief actually worked? And how do you know? And then let's see if your power of words, if you feel like you can take up the challenge, affect rice. Talk to you later. Bye.